Hello everybody, so I'm just back from work and I meant to upload this last night but I was just too tired. By the time the interview was over it was nearly 12 o'clock, and by the time I got to bed last night and I had to walk in the morning, it was 1 o'clock, half one by the time I got to bed, so I was too tired to make it. But I did watch the whole interview. Now the only time really in the last few years I've watched OTs now just to hear what was being said, etc, etc, and I wrote a few points down, etc, etc. There's a lot to talk because obviously it was 2 hours. But mainly the main thing was waffle, 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 promise after promise, promise after promise. The same old bullshit basically, as usual. You know, the same old, same old. More promises they're not going to keep. Lies, lies, lies. More of all that. Waffle, waffle, waffle. Talk, talk, talk. You know, all that. But there's a few interesting observations you could look at. And that's particularly with Simon Harris and Micheál Martin literally beside each other. So basically nowadays, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael one of the same. It's not like back when they founded and when the country split because of the Anglo-Irish Treaty, take for example. And it split with the Republic of Ireland with Northern Ireland. Um, we're far from them days, let's put it that way, because they're basically one and the same. The two of them were nodding at each other and were basically agreeing on each other and everything. So basically they're one and the same. There's no difference between Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, they're one and the same. And the same, we need the majority of them on the stage. Now, who won the debate? I know people would ask who won the debate, and to be totally honest with you, they were all waffling on, and again, the Labour Party, particularly of Anna Patrick, was waffling on about who we go into government with, etc., etc. There was loads of waffle, particularly from her. The rest of them were waffling on anyway, and you wouldn't answer, they wouldn't give a direct answer who they go into government with, etc., etc. And at least in fairness, the one fellow I think won the debate because he was very blunt about it, even though he said he would nearly go in. He said he would go into coalition with Fianna Fáil. He wouldn't go in with Fine Gael or the Greens, but he would go in with Fianna Fáil. So basically, if you get Fine Gael, you get Fianna Fáil. So it was that. It was Patrick Trevine, the leader of Aintu. Now, in fairness, he made some good points. And he basically, when he was asked that question, who would he go into coalition with, he basically was straight up. The rest of them were all dilly-dallying around the bush. So in fairness, he did at least say it straight what he thought, etc., etc. So in fairness, he did. And a few other points, he was very persistent with them compared to that. So in fairness to Patrick Trevine and that, the rest of them were dilly-dallying on, especially if Anna Patrick went on for I don't know how long. She wouldn't answer the question who she would go into government with. What party would she go into a coalition government, take for example? She wouldn't answer it, as simple as that. And another interesting thing was that Ivana Patrick particularly said a bit of left alliance. So that's the political party in Finland, take for example. So probably what I could see happening is, and again, just because it seems like they have talked about it, because particularly the Left Alliance, or what they probably would call it, something like in Finland, they probably would merge the Labour Party with People Before Profit, etc., etc. That what could happen, because they seem like they seem to very hell bent on doing that. The other thing I will say is, People Before Profit and Sinn Féin were very close, Richard Boyd and Mary Lou McDonald. They basically nearly agreed on everything. Everything one of them said they agreed 100%. Mary Lou and People Before Profit 100% nodding away to each other. Now, to be totally honest, Sinn Féin, the other thing we just mentioned around Mary Lou McDonald, Sinn Féin doesn't have the policy out last night. They do have it out. I think they have some of the policies out, what they're going to implement in government, whether they're getting the money, etc., etc., to, if they get into government, take for example, the manifesto, I suppose you would call it. And I don't know was that intentional because they didn't want people to hear what Mary Lou McDonald, etc., etc., because they hate being questioned on stuff, and where the money's coming from and all that to pay for this stuff that they promise. And they promise the moon out and the stars, but if there's no money to back it up, there's no point in promising the moon out and the stars. And obviously Mary Lou McDonald too, when she's questioned about anything, particularly about immigration, etc., etc., there's nothing really that she has to really say about it, to be totally honest. So we see what happens in the next debate on Monday. But Mary Lou McDonald didn't really have much to say, and to be totally honest. Now, Patrick Trevine raised the good point just when I'm here about the Children's Hospital, National Children's Hospital, that is the most expensive children's hospital in the world. He raised a good point. That Simon Harris, and people forget that Simon Harris was the Minister for Health when the Children's Hospital was signed in 2017 or so, that time. He was Minister for Health, and you remember the Suffolk check. People forget about that. People very quickly forget about stuff like that. But he was the Minister over, and definitely he might lie and say he didn't sign off it. But as the Minister for Health, I'm sure to God, he was the man that had the final say on the hospital, because again, it's a hospital. It's not like it was a park bench or something like that. It's a hospital, and obviously the Minister for Health has the final say because he's in charge of the budget of the HSE, etc., etc. So, lies and lies, more lies, and more gaslighting, basically. And then obviously too, Paddy Turbine was raised actually by the host, but Paddy Turbine and stuff like that was saying we should have this COVID inquiry a long time ago, and that's true. Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael we could have had it a long time ago if they wanted to, but it's the fact of the matter they didn't want to, because there'll be a lot of things pointed out that Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael did during COVID that they wouldn't want to be acknowledged in any sort of or any shape and form, because people will remember different things about it. And there'll be things brought out they wouldn't want people to know about, because again, it's only the tip of the iceberg what we know. Golf Gate's only the tip of the iceberg. I say there was parties every night if we only knew the truth. And then obviously the last thing I would talk about, because there's loads of other stuff to talk about, but it's more waffle, and that's pretty much it. But the interesting bits I took out of it was the occupied territory bill that was to do with Israel and Palestine. Now they had loads of time. I don't know what Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael are saying that we've done a lot for Palestine, etc., etc. But they had loads of time to pass the occupied territories bill. So I don't know what they're saying, that we didn't have the advice from the Attorney General. The Attorney General said that the advice from the European Court of Justice, UN Court of Justice, in The Hague, was sufficient to pass the legislation. Because obviously there's some issues with the phrasing, etc., etc., of the bill. But I do think they could have done it if they wanted to, because The Hague really basically give them an opportunity to pass it if they wanted to. And they didn't. And I think everybody in the country, I think this is unanimously across all political parties, that we want something to be done, particularly with arms going across our country, going to bomb children, etc., etc., over in Israel, over in Palestine, etc., etc. American aircraft coming over with weapons of war that shouldn't be coming over. And then obviously people being suffering in Palestine, etc., etc., shouldn't be tolerated. And there should be sanctions, because there's war crimes going on out in the Middle East as we speak. And Fianna Fáil are basically afraid to do anything, because we all know the American ambassador intervened to stop that. Allegedly, of course, but it seems to be, because there's no other explanation why they didn't pass it. Because they're jumping up and down about passing it now when the election's on, but obviously but anyway. So let me know what you think. I know probably some people didn't bother watching it. I only watched it because I need to know exactly what they're saying. Like, they talked a lot more waffle about stuff, and waffle. Just the usual crack, basically. So let me know what you think. Who won the debate? I don't think anybody has much time for any of them, but I suppose it's interesting to hear what they have to say. Waffle on about anyway. Thank you.